So the mainstream media is stuck on Joe Biden's debate performance. They're stuck on his age and they're stuck on should he or should he not stay in the race. They're trying so hard to create as much chaos as they can because chaos equals ratings. And Donald Trump is absolute king of chaos. As long as he's around, they know they've got ratings. And so now they can latch onto this narrative that Joe Biden is too old. They know that equals ratings, and they're going to keep pushing that. But while they're pushing all of that, and while they're staying fixated on that debate performance, there's a lot of things that are happening that they're deciding not to cover, and I think it's newsworthy. And that's why that I'm glad to work alongside the Meidas Touch Network, because they're talking about the things that actually matter and pointing out things that should absolutely disturb any reasonable person, especially going into the November election. So I'm going to be playing you some clips here from Ben Meidas, and this is talking about Donald Trump and his ties with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, you know that the Epstein list is something Republicans love to talk about. But anytime they talk about it, they're only referring to Democrats being on it. They use the Epstein list as a way to paint it that all Democrats are pedophiles. Folks, every day of my life, somebody accuses me of being one just because I support Joe Biden, just because I lean to the left. That's how sick and twisted they are. And anything they do, just remember, it's always a straw man argument. It's always them building someone up so they can tear it down. We're going to take a look at these clips. This may be a longer video than I normally make, but it's worth every minute of it. Everyone really needs to pay attention to this. Let's go first to this clip here from Ben Meidas, and then we're going to talk more about it.
Circuit Judge Luis Delgado ordered the 16-year-old documents release, writing that details in the record will be outrageous for decent people. Nearly 200 pages of documents have been released containing details of Epstein's crimes, including firsthand accounts from victims and specifics about payoffs to underage victims. And take a look whose name appears over and over and over again in the call log. As one commentator wrote, prior to marrying Melania in January 2005, Trump was calling Jeffrey Epstein in 2004 on the regular. We now have the phone messages between Epstein and Donald Trump, the phone message log. That is, and this is in connection with the West Palm Beach indictment of Epstein that was released on Monday. His messages are in between girls calling to confirm massage appointments and messages from the disgraced modeling agent Jean-Luc Brunel. It should be noted that Jean-Luc died by way of suicide in prison in 2022. Just take a look right here of the message logs right here, and you'll see, for example, Donald Trump's name appearing again and again and again, and we see it over and over right there.
So the mainstream media is not covering this, and on Maga's side of the fence, it's complete and total crickets. It always goes completely silent anytime someone points out that Trump himself was on the Epstein list, and it just goes to show you the hypocrisy of MAGA. If this is such an important issue to them and they care so much about children and they have such a strong stance against pedophiles, then wouldn't they have questions about their own leader being mentioned again and again and again in these documents? Why is it that they can't bring themselves to throw their own guy under the bus? Because I can say, before we keep going here, and trust me, folks, it just continues to get worse, by the way. But before we continue to go on, I can say that if any Democrat, be it Bill Clinton, Joe Biden, Barack Obama, anyone, is on the same list and has done something that has hurt an innocent person, I want that person held fully accountable to the fullest extent of the law. I can say that. My question is, could MAGA watch this next clip and say the same?
Around this time period as well, Donald Trump was doing some other activities like this as well. This was an article about Donald Trump's behavior in 1991 with the Look of the Year competition. Teen models, powerful men, and private dinners. This is from The Guardian, by the way. When Trump hosted Look of the Year in 1991, here's how it was described by The Guardian. On September 1991, a large private yacht cruised toward the Statue of Liberty. It was a clear, breezy evening, and from the upper deck of the Spirit of New York, a golden sunset could be seen glinting off the Manhattan skyline. Downstairs, a party was in flow. Scores of teenage girls in evening dresses and miniskirts some as young as 14, and I actually think younger than that, danced under disco lights. It could have been a high school prom were it not for the crowd of older men surrounding them. As the evening wore on, some of the men, many old enough to be the girls' fathers or even grandfathers, joined them on the dance floor, pressing themselves against the girls. One balding man in a suit wrapped his arms around two young models, leering into a film camera that was documenting the evening. Can you please get some beautiful women around me, please? The party aboard the Spirit of New York was one of several events that Donald Trump, then 45 years old, attended with a group of 58 aspiring young models that September. You want to see what they looked like, the aspiring young models who were 14-year-old and I think were younger? Here's a photo of them right here from the competition that Donald Trump held.
So Trump was 45 at the time, and that is where he was hanging out with the likes of Jeffrey Epstein. But I can hear the critics now saying, oh, but Brando, he wasn't really into that kind of thing, man. He wasn't as weird as Epstein was. He realized Epstein was a bad dude, and he got away from him. He sure did hang around him for an awful long time. And he also went on Howard Stern and bragged about being at these kind of events and bragged about inspecting the naked women. Take a look.
But you could also say, as the owner of the pageant, it's your obligation to do that.
So you have done that. Now,
I'll tell you the funniest is that I'll go backstage before a show.
Yes.
And everyone's getting dressed and ready and everything else. And, no men are anywhere. And I'm allowed to go in because I'm the owner of the pageant, and therefore I'm inspecting it. I'm inspecting. Right, I want to make sure that
like
everything is good.
You're there.
Yeah, the dress. Is everyone okay? They're standing there with no clothes. Is everybody okay? And you see these incredible-looking women. And so I sort of get away with things.
Now, folks, I'm just going to shoot straight with you. I'm not going to bullshit you about who I am. Back when I was a teenager, I loved Howard Stern, and I never missed an episode. Back when it used to come on the E! channel, it would come on at 11 at night, a new episode would, and then they would play an older episode at 11:30. I never missed it. I watched it every time it came on. Hell, I'll own it. I even went so far as to record them on VHS tapes and go back and watch them again. I found him to be hilarious when I was a teenager. That shock jock style of asking people all the inappropriate questions that made them uncomfortable. I thought it was hilarious as a kid. And so that's why when Donald Trump come along and suddenly became the face of the evangelical crowd, I was like, hold on a minute, guys. Have you really listened to what this guy has had to say? Because Howard Stern has said many times that Trump was the perfect guest because he could bait Trump into those kind of questions and Trump would roll with it and go right along with it. And Stern could just feed off of that. He could feed off that and make it an entertaining episode. Well, I might have laughed at that as a teenager, but as a 44-year-old adult, I don't want that man to be the leader of the free world ever again. He should have never been to start with, and I don't want him to ever be again because the dude is truly sick and depraved. And you don't hang around someone like Jeffrey Epstein for that long and not get tangled up in things. I'm not accusing him of things. I'm not sitting here saying that everything that's been said about him is 100% true. I can't say that because it's not been fully proven yet. But all I will say is an old saying that I've said for years, and that is, if you sit in a barbershop long enough, you'll get a haircut. So just take all the time you need to think about that one and then listen to this disgusting clip of him again on Howard Stern talking about how Lindsay Lohan would be great in bed because she's deeply troubled. Take a look.
What do you think of Lindsay Lohan, Howard?
I think she's hot.
There's something there, right?
Yes.
But you have to like freckles. I've seen a close-up of her chest.
Yes.
And a lot of freckles. Are you into freckles?
If the father's a wreck like the way he is.
Right.
You imagine the sex with this troubled...
Yeah, you're probably right. She's probably deeply troubled and therefore great in bed.
Back in the day...
How come the deeply troubled women...
Yes.
Deeply troubled.
Right.
They're always the best in bed. If for some reason what I said is true, I mean, they're just unbelievable.
I can tell from the...
You don't want to be with them for the long term, but for the short term, there's nothing.
And now finally, listen to this. This is what Donald Trump says about his own daughter, Ivanka, and how he thinks about her and he thinks about sex. Here, play this clip.
She does have a very nice figure. I've said that if Ivanka weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her.
Okay, Ivanka, what's the favorite thing you have in common with your father?
Either real estate or golf.
Donald, with your daughter?
Well, I was going to say sex, but I can't relate that.
If I weren't happily married and, her father.
My daughter, Ivanka.
Yeah.
She's 6 feet tall. She's got the best body.
By the way, your daughter.
She's beautiful.
Can I say this? A piece of ass.
Yeah.
She looks more voluptuous than ever.
She's actually always been very voluptuous.
It's unbelievable.
She's almost 60.
You going up the escalator? I'm going to be dating her in 10 years. Can you believe it?
So yeah, a guy that was on Epstein's flight logs and seen partying and hanging out with Epstein at places where young girls were hanging out thinks like that. So you see why it gets harder and harder to defend him if you're MAGA? Do you see why it's harder and harder to try to say that he wasn't like that, or that he saw Epstein to be a bad guy? I've heard him say that. Oh, he saw Epstein was a bad dude and he got away from him. That's his mindset. That's the Donald Trump mindset right there. What do you think that mindset would do hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein? I'm just saying, when I get together with people and we both love the blues, guess what we do together? We get our instruments and we play the blues. I don't understand why it's so hard to connect those dots for MAGA. I don't understand why that they're being silent about it. And I sure as hell don't understand why the mainstream media is not covering it more. But I definitely understand why Donald Trump has always tried to distance himself from it. The next couple of clips I'm going to play for you are going to start to make a whole lot of sense. When here he's asked about Ghislaine Maxwell, he says that he wishes her well. Take a look.
Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison, and a lot of people want to know if she's going to turn in powerful people. And I know you've talked in the past about Prince Andrew, and you've criticized Bill Clinton's behavior. I'm wondering, do you feel that she's going to turn in powerful men? How do you see that working out?
I don't know. I haven't really been following it too much. I just wish her well, frankly. I've met her numerous times over the years, especially since I lived in Palm Beach, and I guess they lived in Palm Beach. But I wish her well, whatever it is. I don't know the situation with Prince Andrew. Just don't know. Not aware of it.
Mr. President.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm definitely starting to see a pattern here with Trump. Anytime something looks like that it could potentially tank his candidacy, suddenly he doesn't know anything about it. He's out there denying Project 2025 now, saying he doesn't know anything about it, but he always follows it up by saying he wishes them well. And there he is saying to Ghislaine Maxwell, I wish her well. Why would he wish anyone well who helped Jeffrey Epstein traffic people? Why would he say that? Unless maybe he didn't want her to say anything bad about him and he was just trying to kind of suck up. I mean, that's kind of how I take it. And now that we've saw all this that we've uncovered here today, now that we've saw all of these things, let's take one more look at this clip when Trump was asked if he would declassify the Epstein files. And let's take one last look at his hesitation.
Would you declassify the 9/11 files?
Yeah.
Would you declassify JFK files?
Yeah.
Would
I
you,
did a lot of it.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I guess I would. I think that less so because, you don't know it. You don't want to affect people's lives if it's phony stuff in there, because there's a lot of phony stuff with that whole world. But I think I would, or at least
Do you think that would restore trust? Help restore trust?
Yeah, I don't know about Epstein so much as I do the other.
He actually said, I guess I would, but maybe that one not so much, because that could really, affect people's lives. There's a lot of fake stuff in there. So to the people who are still trying to defend Donald Trump on this one, my question is this. I thought you guys wanted it to all come out. I thought you wanted everything to be out in the open and for us to see everything. So does that mean that you want it to come out in the open if it's Bill Clinton, but not if it's Donald Trump? Do you want to keep his hidden? Is it fake if it's Trump? It's fake if it's him, but it's real if it's a Democrat. If that's how you think, then don't come at me that you actually care about children. Don't come at me that you're actually against pedophiles. What you're essentially saying is that you're using it as a weapon against Democrats. When you talk about the Epstein list, you really don't care about if Trump was on it or not. You just want it to be a tool that you can use and weaponize against Democrats. But what you got to understand is it's never going to be the gotcha moment that you think it is, because we're never going to say, oh, yeah, let Bill Clinton buy with that if he did something. That's not us. That's not who we are. That's who you are. So if you actually care about this, this should be the video you send to your friends. This should be the video that you send to your aunt and uncle who still defends Trump and still tries to say that he had nothing to do with Epstein. If you truly care about it, put your money where your mouth is and prove it to us. Otherwise, shut up about it because we see through you.